Once again, I welcome all the participants to the second session of day 2 of this 2-day webinar on life writing new perspectives. We are privileged to have Professor Rajkumar with us in this session. He will give a talk on caste, culture and identity, reading Dalit autobiographies. Professor Rajkumar is head at the Department of English, Delhi University. His research areas include autobiographical studies, Dalit literature, Indian writing in English, Odia literature, and post-colonial studies. He has been a fellow at the Indian Institute of Advanced Study, Shimla, in 1999 and is published in various national and international journals. Professor Rajkumar has also translated literary texts from Indian languages, especially Odia, into English. His book, Dalit Personal Narratives, Reading Caste, Nation and Identity has been printed by Odeon Black Swan in 2010. His English translation of Akila Naik's Bheda, the first Odia Dalit novel, is published by the Oxford University Press. His book, Dalit Literature and Criticism, is published by Orient Black Swan. Over to you, sir. Over to Professor Rajkumar.
Yeah, thank you, Manisha. Good afternoon to everyone. I profoundly thank Professor Madhusmita Pati and her team to have invited me to this webinar, which is a very important actually topic, not just for me but for many of us. The title is Life Writing New Perspective. So I'm sure you know that we are going to have several perspectives. I can see Jatin sir as a part of audience. Yeah, he's maybe you know that, and I'm sure there will be many others. So what I'll do is that for next 30-40 minutes, what I am going to do, my title is deliberate, as you know that I've given caste, culture and identity reading Dalit autobiography, and I'm very glad that the topic is life writing. So the first and foremost question, I will pose more questions than perhaps answering them, because the first and foremost thing you know that about Dalit writing or Dalit life writing is that they cannot write. Till very recently, you must not have read many of the Dalit autobiographies, because the question that we need to pose here is who can write. This is the first and foremost thing that we need to talk about. Under Hindu caste rule, Shudra, Ati Shudra, women of all categories, I emphasize here, and other minorities like say Adivasi and others, they could not write because Hindu caste rules would not allow you know that people of this category. I'm actually clubbing together um, um Dalit, Bahujan, women of all category, Adivasi, as you know that who are the one who are deprived of Hindu caste system, and that's why education was not available to them very recently, and that's why the first question that I pose is who can write. Here I would like to trace the history of autobiography. I'm sure many people have read many things, but just to put my argument in proper way, proper context, I would like to say that the first autobiography that we know about, formal autobiography, of course, full-fledged autobiography, is Saint Augustine. This is, of course, you know that so far as the Western civilization goes, and that was written in 4th century AD. The first Indian autobiography, full-fledged autobiography, is by Banarasi Das, someone from former UP, of course. Earlier it was Central Province. 1641. This is the precise date. I would like to actually emphasize on this date also, 1641, 17th century. By then, I must try to also emphasize here that Rousseau's Confession, which is considered to be the first secular autobiography, because before Rousseau, what existed considered to be uh, spiritual autobiography. So all of a sudden, Rousseau was the first one to turn the clock by writing what is called secular autobiography. So Rousseau's is, of course, 1879, so 19th century. So if we talk about, that Indian tradition of writing autobiography, which I suggested that Banarasi Das Ardha Kathanaka is the one 1641, which is considered to be the first full-fledged Indian autobiography. Then it precedes before Rousseau. This is very interesting because if we talk about the literary and socio-cultural self, because when we are talking about life, also we have to talk about self, because life writing has to be predetermined with the existing of individual self. So, that if we go by this, Ardha Satanaka by Banarsi Das is a great trendsetter, particularly because Indian tradition doesn't allow, as Bhikhu Parekh and many others have already pointed out, that there was no individual self emerging in even as late as end of 19th century. Because coming of British, also introduction of English education, then coming of printing press, and then that what is called public sphere idea of that writing self came in a major way, and there were too many actually Atma Charita and Atma Jivana later. But this is an interesting part that two women, actually, that before I talk about the four famous Indian autobiography, one by Gandhi, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, second by Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, third by, of course, Neeraj Chaudhuri, and fourth by Mulkraj Anand's Apology for Heroism. Fascinating narrative by an Indian. This is life writing. Uh, Two Indian women happened to write before Gandhi, because M.K. Gandhi's autobiography came in 1927, precisely, that 1927. But before that, what has happened, I was telling you about the coming of British, and there is an emergence public sphere. So we go back to the history of India by saying that women, even though they were not allowed to read and write, the first Indian woman's autobiography, as we all know, is Rasa Sundari's Devi, Amar Jivan. This was published in 1868, and the second part, of course, came out towards the end of 19th century. And then we have Binodini Dasi. Uh, um, my that life as an actress, of course 2 parts she wrote, that came out in 1912, as early as possible. That 1912, these are all fascinating dates, that because Gandhi had not written before. 1927 was Gandhi's autobiography. So what I was just trying to tell you is that there are actually too many trajectory to write one's life writing, and one has to also understand about the socio-cultural. It is not just literary, because when I started questioning the idea of who can write, it is not just literacy alone, also the environment, social environment, also cultural, that environment that would perhaps, that help a person to articulate one's, that self. Now, self is a problematic term, particularly, that there is no fixity, because when we talk about life writing, it is the individual self, because one has to, of course, articulate about one's own, even though it is, that in that in relationship with societal self. But there are also problematic self, as Pramod Nair has already pointed out, relational self, and then isolated self, social self, that it is not just individual self. So, say if you read Nehru's autobiography, for example, which is more than 600 pages, uh, Nehru hardly talks about his individual self. It is the national self. It is India's self that is emerging, because he as a freedom fighter writing about that national self. So whereas Gandhi is talking about both individual self, because his the second part of his autobiography is titled My Experiment with Truth, my experiment. So, that he's emphasizing about his individual self vis-a-vis social, national, the civilizational self. Whereas Nehru is just talking about national self. He dismisses, that within maybe, that out of 600, 120 pages you will find writing about his own family and maybe ancestors. He doesn't write about his wife also. So what I'm just trying to tell you that if you are reading Dalit, say autobiography or Dalit writing, life writing, there could be much more problematic than, as we foresee while reading about the criticism on autobiography. So, say, for example, I'll just, that come straight to some of the question that Dalits uh, started writing autobiography only in 20th, the century. The first Dalit autobiography is considered to be Hazari. People may not know, that many people do not know about Hazari because he has only one autobiographical piece called Untouchable, Life Story of an Indian Outcast. This is fascinating because this book got published not in India but America, written in English way back in 1951. By then, India has just got independence. That we had already started enacting our Indian Constitution in 1950, and this book got published in 1951. Hazari is a pseudonym, not a real name. A person is from UP who was a definitely, that a poor untouchable who got patronized by an Englishman called Newman, and he was sent to France, got educated in English, and then went to America to settle down, and that writes his autobiography and got published in English, 1951. This is considered to be the first first Dalit autobiography before India got what is called Dalit literature, because Dalit literature, when we talk about modern Dalit literature, which came out after Dalit Panthers movement in 1972. 1972, this is post-Ambedkarite movement, and it was in Maharashtra that we all of a sudden got several Dalit autobiography. For example, the first and foremost Dalit autobiography in Maharashtra was by Sharan Kumar Limbale. He published Akar Marxi way back in 1984. 1984, please, that just look at the date also. So I will just try to problematize by saying that Dalits were not able to write their life because of the Hindu caste law, which would not allow Dalits to get educated. Because if we try to define autobiography as a term, auto is self, bio is life, graph is writing. So auto is self, whose self one talks about in autobiography. These are some of the questions we need to ponder about, because I have already pointed out that when we are talking about, say, Nehru's autobiography, it is not individual self, it is the national self. When we talk about, say, Dalit autobiographies, Dalit self is not individual, it is collective. So I becomes we. In every Dalit autobiography that we read, it is not just I, because we have to also understand about the way Dalits all over India, they suffer from caste exploitation and oppression. This is a civilizational crisis, and that's why one has to actually talk about why is it so that when the upper caste, particularly you talk about any number of upper caste, both men and women writer, I can give you hundreds, maybe that uh, uh, example, a list of maybe 100 autobiography whereby upper caste men and women, particularly in their autobiography, this is actually very generalized kind of way one can talk about. They try to celebrate their self, and that is public self. because when autobiography came out in India, particularly at the end of maybe that from mid 19th century to maybe that there were spot of autobiography in 20th century, hundreds of autobiography that you can read of both Indian upper caste men and women. It is mostly, that particularly in the case of man, they try to celebrate their public self. They try to actually celebrate their public achievement. So one can go on and on about, that how they celebrate about their self. So this is also one of the critique of autobiographical studies, because when it comes to criticism, autobiography is written by those who are in the public arena, number one, and number two, the idea of celebrating self in the public. Whereas if we talk about Indian upper caste women's autobiography, of course, the case is a little different. I must, that emphasize here, because there are personal self, say how women are being exploited and that oppressed by Indian patriarchal system. So what they cannot speak in public, the way that they undergo the personal kind of that suffering, they write in their autobiography. So there is also marked difference between Indian upper caste men and women. So if we talk about say Rasa Sundari Devi's Amar Jivan, she in one place talks about how she feels that she is a sacrificial goat. Out of 24 hours, she has to spend some 8 hours in kitchen just for cooking, that maybe 30, 40 members of her family, joint family. Whereas Dalit, that Dalit autobiography is concerned, Dalit autobiography, as I have already pointed out, is always collective. Say, you talk about any, that Dalit autobiography coming from various regions. I can give you 2 or 3 instances maybe. Look at the fascinating title, Akarmasi. Akarmasi by Sharan Kumar Limbale, which he wrote when he was 25 years old. I'm sure some of you have read. Akarmasi is translated into English and published by Oxford as The Outcast, which is not the, that right translation of the word Akarmasi. Akarmasi, this is a tradition in many parts of India that upper caste man, particularly rich feudal, that upper caste man, they try to keep Dalit women as their, that either concubine or prostitutes, just to enjoy their body. Once their children are, that burnout of this relationship, most of them are rejected. They may give a piece of land for their survival, for their livelihood. But the children burn out to these upper caste men and Dalit women are called Akarmasi. This is a tradition. This is Indian civilization. No, Indian Hindu caste, the society has several orthodoxy which believes in, that not only caste, also tradition and custom, like Devadasi system, where, the Dalit girls are being dedicated to temple and they are called Devadasi, but they are temple prostitutes, out of which the term Harijan came out. So we can problematize, that all these, that custom and tradition. But what is most important about, say, Akarmasi is here is a tradition in India as dictated by caste society, whereby there are also evidences of some people becoming bastard. So Akarmasi in English translation is bastard. If you have read this autobiography, Sharan Kumar Limbale, who is also author of several other books, like he has 2 novels now. One is Hindu, another is Upalya. And what is very fascinating about Sharan Kumar Limbale is that he has also a theoretical, the framework about Dalit aesthetic towards an introduction of Dalit aesthetic. So He wrote this autobiography at the age of 25, and I must tell you that I have never read any autobiography whereby the rage, the anger of a 25-year-old man questioning, interrogating Indian caste society, and also his mother, that why did you keep me 9 months in your womb, which is considered to be bastard. So, that this is not a simple autobiography. What I'm just trying to tell you is that if you read an autobiography like Karan Kumar Limbale, Akar Mercy, we have to go back to Indian history, culture, tradition, and also civilization to properly understand about the sensitivities and issue being mentioned in the autobiography. Look at now the very famous Hindi autobiography by Om Prakash Valmiki called Jhutan. Jhutan. No, the title is Jhutan. Jhutan is leftover food. What Om Prakash Valmiki does is he not only deconstruct the way Dalit are being pejoratively, that being written in texts like Manusmriti. And please try to understand that Manusmriti is the one text because Manusmriti is, that I'm referring to Manusmriti because here there is a reference to Chandal, the Dalit, who is being described as a person who should wear only tattered clothes. He should have a broken plate in his possession and a donkey and a dog. And that what his work is, he has to serve the upper caste, particularly doing all the dirty and demeaning work at the cost of getting leftover food. At the end of the day, the Chandala has to move around to collect leftover food, uchista in Sanskrit. And that's why Om Prakash Valmiki, by writing his autobiography and giving a very significant title called Jhutan, is rewriting India's history in a big way. Because if you read his first page, particularly, that the way he writes about Indian villages, pigs are running over, there are human excreta, there are, that all kinds of, that chaos, confusion, there is no order. So, it is not just the title of Jhutan that is very important. There is also, in a significant way, one has to enter into the domain of Indian literature, particularly taking a doyen of Indian writing like Prem Chand. Om Prakash Valmiki, in a big way, taking up, giving a big challenge to Prem Chand. Because what I refer to Prem Chand is, that he is an ideal Indian village. Now, this is very important aspect of Dalit writing because Prem Chand, Prem Chand happens to be one of the very important progressive writer. He was considered to be not only doyen of Indian writing, also he presided over the first progressive writers conference where he read an essay called Sahitya Ka Uddesh, the aims of literature, whereby he talks about, the writing has to bring a revolution in Indian society. Writing is not just for pleasure. So, what, that